person on my left caught me. He pulled my hair, he beat me. The car went off into it speeded off out of the hotel.
A woman dared to seek justice for the wrongs done to her by a group of 5. But she's maligned at each step by those who should have sympathized with her the most. This is the story of the Braveheart of Bengal. Our story today takes us to the Indian city of Kolkata, where at 3 a.m. on February 6th of 2012, a woman is thrown out of a speeding car. She's badly bruised and can hardly walk. But miraculously, she's alive. She somehow hails a cab and makes her way back to her apartment, which is 10 kilometers away in the southwest, to a place called Bengal. Once she closes the home's front door behind her, she finally catches her breath and finds her bearings. But she isn't ready to tell anyone what's happened just yet. Not only is it still wee hours of the morning, but this woman is also a single mother to her 2 daughters, and she can't imagine saying anything to them as a mom. Just like any good mother, she feels it's her job to shield them from the horrors of the world. So how can she tell them what has been inflicted upon her throughout the previous night? Fast forward 48 hours, she finally enters the police station and registers an FIR. But this is where her Kafkaesque nightmare truly begins. Let's rewind and go back to her life before this fateful day. The woman in question was Suzette Kathrine Jordan, a 36-year-old hardworking single mother who was born on October 21st of 1974 in Kolkata to her parents Peter Jordan and Karen Jordan. She grew up with her brother Savio, and her family lovingly called her Susie and her brother Savvy. Growing up, she was surrounded by a loving and supportive middle-class family, and Suzette turned out to be both beautiful and compassionate, and was known as someone who knew her mind and was a real go-getter. She was the kind of person who wanted to live and see life to the fullest. And through the trials and tribulations of life, while she married and divorced and became a single parent, her backbone, her supportive family, rallied besides her and helped her raise her girls, her pet cats, and her numerous plants. On the evening of Sunday, February 5th, 2012, Suzette had gone to a nightclub in the Park Street area of Kolkata, where she met 5 men, namely Kadir Khan, Muhammad Ali, Nasir Khan, Ruman Khan, and Sumit Bajaj. As she was leaving, these men, ranging in age from their 20s to late 30s, offered to drop her off at her home in Bengal. Once she was cajoled into the car by a false promise by one of these men, to her horror she found 5 men in the car who beat her up and took turns violating her at gunpoint. 2 days after the attack, Suzette walked into the police station to file an FIR. Psychologically, every person has their own timeline for coming to terms with what has happened to them. For some victims, it can even take years to admit this to themselves, let alone to others, what they had truly endured. Let alone the entire world know about their entire ordeal. So 2 days is an extremely short span of time. Mind you, she was severely bruised and was unable to walk. But as an intelligent woman, Suzette gathered a lot of information on her perpetrators. So when she walked into the police station, she already knew almost everything about them and even had these men's snapshots. But unfortunately, right off the bat, she walks in and is asked disgusting questions about her gang assault. The officers on duty reportedly laughed at her and asked her degrading questions like what positions was she attacked in. Reportedly, one police personnel went even further and propositioned her by asking her for drinks for that night. Clearly, the police weren't taking her seriously. They stalled the investigation and dismissed her. As a matter of fact, when Suzette was at the police station, there was not a single female police officer in sight. Can you even imagine the exemplary courage it takes to approach the police in a place like India? According to statistics of the National Crime Records Bureau, in 2014, which is around the time when Suzette was victimized, 96 rape cases were registered in India every single day. But as we all know, a very small percent of victims file the FIR or the first instance report due to fears of ostracization, fears of reprisal, and of all the cases that actually end up in the courts, only 27% of rapists are actually convicted. To add to this sad litany of statistics, the year 2013 saw a 35% increase in rape cases in India. By 2020, the latest statistics tell us that a woman reports a rape in India every 15 minutes. So what happened next? When Suzette sensed that the police were stalling, she contacted the media, and it was due to that pressure that the police finally scheduled her assault analysis kit 8 days after the actual attack. On February 14th of 2012, she underwent an assault kit which subsequently proved her right. It's been reported that when the assault analysis was taking place, some doctors told her that she was lucky to be of fair skin because her bruises were clearly visible. This certainly tells us something about the sad state of assault analysis. By this time, the 5 perpetrators got wind of the impending arrest, and every single one of them absconded. They knew very well that even the surveillance footage of the nightclub proved Suzette right. But before the police could even start their work on Suzette's case, she was receiving a litany of remarks from what seemed like the entire world. People were saying absolutely wild things about her. The chief minister of the state where Suzette lived was her humiliator-in-chief, and she said that the case was just a fabricated incident. Next in line was the then sports minister Madan Mitra, who wanted to know why a single mother would want to be at a nightclub. Trinamool Congress leader Kakoli Ghosh Dasidar said that what had happened wasn't an assault at all. It was a mere transaction between a sex worker and her client, and it was just a deal which had gone wrong. And just to put an extra layer of indignation, in case your blood was not boiling enough, the woman I just mentioned, Kakoli Ghosh Dasidar, was the head of the women's wing of the Trinamool Congress Party. Her supposed job is to help women. But that's not all. This woman is apparently a trained physician who attended no less than King's College London to specialize in postgraduate training in obstetric ultrasound. And sadly, taking a cue from these political leaders, the apathy of the entire world around Suzette went from bad to worse. Angry mobs gathered at Suzette's front door. Landlords and employers wanted nothing to do with her, and whispers followed her wherever she went. And this meant that she couldn't get a steady job or a steady paycheck. Suzette was not a wealthy woman who could get by without working. And this rotten attitude of the people meant that she was forced to live an impoverished life. During all this, the 5 men who assaulted her had absconded and couldn't be tracked down by the police. The only institutional support that Suzette got was from an IPS officer. Her name is Damayanti Singh. This police officer held a press conference and stood up against the needless character assassination of Suzette at the hands of different ministers. And she backed up every single one of Suzette's claims. Inspector Sen spoke up against the woman who ruled the entire state. And it's thanks to people like her that this case was eventually cracked. Unfortunately, Damayanti Singh was transferred to a lower post because she dared to speak up against the officials. All this time, Suzette was being called the Park Street victim. And for about 15 months after her attack, in June 2013, something happened which compelled Suzette to leave her anonymity behind. After meeting the mother of a college student who was assaulted and murdered in the village of Kamundi, not very far from Kolkata, Suzette Jordan decided to waiver her right of anonymity. She appeared on television, and from an assault survivor, she became Suzette Jordan, an activist. She refused to be ashamed of her attacker's crimes. In an interview with the BBC, she said, quote, "I am Suzette Jordan, and I don't want to be known any longer as a victim of Calcutta's Park Street." Unquote. In March 2014, she told the actor Amir Khan on his talk show Satyamev Jayate, quote, "I am not a victim or a survivor. I am a person. I had a life and I want my life back." Unquote. By this time of her life, Suzette had become an activist and was volunteering for an NGO and had become a vocal organizer for the slut walk in Kolkata. She no longer sat silently when the people in power ridiculed and blamed her again and again. She said, quote, "How dare they call me a prostitute? Even if I were one, should I get assaulted? A prostitute earns for her family. She is not standing there for you to assault her." Unquote. In the meanwhile, the 5 men who violated her were still at large. It was several years later, in 2015, that something finally happened in her case. On December 10th of 2015, the additional sessions judge, Judge Bhattacharya, pronounced Ruman Khan, Nasir Khan and Sumit Bajaj guilty of gang assault, criminal conspiracy, voluntarily causing hurt, criminal intimidation, and common intent under relevant sections of the Indian Penal Code. The court sentenced these men to 10 years in jail. But at this time, Kader Khan and Ali Khan were still hiding. After an exhaustive search spanning more than 4 years, these 2 fugitives were finally apprehended in the Greater Noida area in northern India near New Delhi. Kolkata police successfully arrested Kader Khan and his cousin Ali Khan, bringing them back to Kolkata. Subsequently, they were presented before a city court, which ordered their detention in police custody until October 14th of 2016. According to the Deputy Commissioner Murlidhar Sharma, this pair was apprehended by a 4-member team of the Kolkata police in collaboration with local law enforcement of Greater Noida. It turns out that after assaulting Suzette, Kader and Ali both sought refuge at the homes of different family members in several different states across India, including Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, and Delhi. Law enforcement authorities revealed that Kader and Ali had fled to Mumbai just 1 day after the gang assault. One of the police officers stated, quote, Kader immediately relocated to Mumbai and subsequently moved to Bihar. He later resided with relatives in various states. Notably, the accused had an extensive family network with relatives scattered across almost every North Indian state, unquote. While Kader and Ali were staying at their relatives' residences, they consistently changed locations every 10 to 15 days, further explained the same officer. The police further disclosed that Kader, who was in his mid-30s, remained unmarried, while Ali was already married and had 2 children. These 2 men, according to reports, even fled the country and had later returned near the national capital region and were playing hide and seek with the law. At the beginning of 2014, Suzette's health had taken a turn for the worst. After a brief illness, she suffered multi-organ failure and passed away unexpectedly on March 13 of 2015. This was within 3 years of her assault. And it's very easy to connect the dots that all the stress people had put her through contributed to her early demise. She was just 40 years old. Only 3 out of the 5 accused had been prosecuted by the time of her untimely death. What's even sadder is that the 3 who were incarcerated in the presidency jail were mocking the judicial system. They had illicitly acquired smartphones and were regularly updating their status on different social media sites from their jail cells. None of these men ever expressed any remorse for what they had put poor Suzette through. In fact, Ruman updated his Facebook cover photo twice and got several likes within hours. Nasir too frequently shared party pictures from his earlier days before he was incarcerated. His timeline is filled with images of Salman Khan. In one of the pictures, he is standing shirtless near a pool. Reportedly, after the media and Suzette's family brought this to the notice of the jail authorities, their smartphones were eventually confiscated. After Suzette's untimely death, her daughter wrote a moving eulogy for her mother. Suzette had become a vocal advocate for women nationwide and had gained so much respect. Hundreds turned up at her funeral. When all these 5 men were found and taken to the court, they were the ones hiding their faces, while Suzette chose to reveal her face and in so doing inspired millions of women not only in India but around the world.
She was very unwell. The only person I dreamed to be like is my mother. She had her bad days, never completed her education. She'd drink, she'd smoke, she'd sometimes get into my clothes too. She had 21 tattoos and a whole lot of scars from mutilation. She was a rebel. She never had a permanent job. But my mother was one of a kind. She taught me to believe in myself. Never is it important to fit in. It's okay to stand out and enjoy the view, she'd say. There have been days where we never had any money, not a rupee at home to eat. It's okay, she'd smile reassuringly, at least we have each other.
What are your thoughts about Suzette's bravery and police work in this case? Share your thoughts in the comments below.